3, 2, 1.
Hello and hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. A good time for everyone wherever you are. This is Shady Aljacky and you are watching Supply Chain on Air, and today is episode number 6. As usual, before we start our episode of today, I need to know from where you are joining us. Just tell us the country, the time that you are watching us now in the comments. I will wait our friends as usual before we start our topic of today. In the beginning, I'm so sorry for the late, about 2 or 3 minutes. We were having some connection problems. Just we solve it now. We have Ahmed Musa. How are you, Ahmed? Thank you, Ahmed, our friend. From Egypt, Ahmed. I am one of his big fan. Okay, till we have more comments. Today we need, as we are focusing on the supply chain, and since this episode only for Supply Chain on Air, today we need to point out from practical cases the knowledge, benefits, and impacts on you and your organization. Now everyone knows very well that supply chain management is the heart of any business, the tool that measures the business performance. So our topic of today is applying supply chain knowledge. And our guest of today will drive a lot of information about our topic. Our guest has a corporate experience in supply chain management, almost 20 years, within FMCG, home appliance, and multinational companies. She started the professional to provide training courses since 2006 within supply chain major. She is Amany Zedan. Hi, Amany. Hello. Amany, I think you are
Yes,
closing the mic. Yes.
it's unmuted now. Hello, how are you?
How are you, Amany?
All is great.
Thanks to join us today, Amany, and we are waiting a lot of information from your side as usual.
It's my pleasure. And hi,
Thank
Ahmed.
you.
Happy that you
We
are there.
Yes, we have Nihal from Egypt. Thank you, Nihal.
Hello.
Hamous again. Our friend Ahmed Khaled. How are you, Ahmed?
A lot of
Uh,
common friends.
yes. Ahmed Musa. He is very active. Thank you, Ahmed. Uh, Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Okay, as usual, Amani, before we start our topic of today, in a couple of minutes, tell us who is Amani.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm just a colleague of all the supply chain experts. I enjoy being there in the supply chain field. I started in 1999 as a material planner in P&G. And then I went across 20 years or plus in different industries within the supply chain field. I joined a lot of organizations working in different industries, as you have mentioned, and this have been really a very long journey. The more that you move between industries and organizations, the more that you face more challenges across the field. I worked a lot of the sub categories of the supply chain. I mean, I worked in the planning function as material planner, production planner. I worked in scheduling. I had ERP system implementation experience. I joined lean implementations cross borders. I had exposure on lean manufacturing and a lot of other systems within the supply chain. I supervised the whole supply chain end to end, even including customer service, um, and even the part related to the distribution cross borders. So it's something like you have did the whole exercise on your own. Let's say there is something like a 20% within the supply chain that I have supervised, but I didn't do it by my own. But actually, it has been a real long journey.
Thank you, Amani. It was a great journey. As we agreed, our topic of today is applying supply chain knowledge. So before
Yes.
we go in more detail, generally we need a definition for supply chain management.
Well, if we'll talk about the supply chain as a definition, I mean, a lot of books is including the definitions. However, well, what is most realistic is networking. It's something like you get the network of the organization itself within one umbrella. Uh, you are connecting all departments. You are leading this connection across. And if we are talking about the supply chain in different perspectives, so if you are talking about the organization supply chain, then you are having the end to end from the raw materials up to the customer. And if you're talking about integrated supply chain, then you are linking more and more organizations within the scope of the supply chain. So it's more of networking and connecting all the parties within the organization to have a smooth flow of products and goods, and to have more efficient use of resources.
Exactly.
It's
So we
more
can
of what, I apologize if we'll talk about the objectives. It's more of having the customer satisfied while keeping
sure.
the organization efficient and effective. Thank you.
Exactly. So we can summarize supply chain management that involves and link planning, procurement, logistics activities within the same company and also with other companies in order by
Exactly.
the end to satisfy the customer needs.
And if I would add more, Shady, it's something like when we talk about this, it's more of the physical flow. But if you would involve that we are even connecting the other departments within the organization, like sales and marketing in the SNOP forum,
Sure.
the finance team, like the HR, when we get to change the number of shifts that we work, you are networking the organization all over. Yes, we focus on the steps of the physical flow of the products, yet we are connecting to all other departments within the organization.
Sure. So can we check also again our lovely friends? We have Ahmed Khalid, wonderful definition of supply chain. Thank you, Ahmed. Nihal, hello, Amani. So excited to see you. Thank
Hello,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. So let's go more deep, Amani. I would like to ask you the first question of today.
Sure.
Why is it important to understand supply chain?
Well, when we say why it's important to understand supply chain, it's more of understanding business. Supply chain, as we have just mentioned in the definition, is linked to all the sub-departments of the organization. So if we'll talk about supply chain, it's not only for those who would like to work for the supply chain or to join the supply chain department in an organization. It's more of people understanding the concept of the supply chain. If you are working in the finance, you need to understand what the supply chain team is doing. If you are in the marketing, if you are in wherever in the organization, understanding the concepts of the supply chain is really value adding.
Yes.
And even if you will think to apply it on your personal life, you will find a lot of concept that is applying when we define the objective, something like using the resources in the efficient way and keep your customers satisfied. You will always have a customer inside and outside the organization, and you will always have resources in your professional and in personal life. So if you will say that understanding supply chain is of benefit, then it's of benefit for all. If you are willing to have your own project, your own organization, you are not an employee in an organization, but you are willing to have even a small to medium project, understanding the supply chain will be really of benefit to do this.
Sure. Do you know, Amani, I believe that supply chain is something natural and had been created inside human, as we do it sometimes without even notice it. But as you mentioned, when we understand the importance of the supply chain, a lot of things will be improved in our business or our organization. Um, I would like to go more and more with you, Amani, in questions. From what you just said, we
Yes.
understand that the acquisition of knowledge either by organization or individuals is considered critical to the success of
Yes.
the organization,
Yes, it
especially
is.
in the dynamic and uncertain business environment. So, how can you acquire supply chain knowledge?
Well, acquiring the supply chain knowledge will be a bit, let's say, not hard, but it requires focus and it requires being serious. It's not just something that you had a training course for a couple of hours and then you say that I've got the knowledge required for the supply chain. It requires to get hands on it requires experience. It requires checking what's new. So you need to go through, let's say, practical experience. You need to apply the knowledge that you may have it in a course or a training session. You need to read books and to keep updated, and you have to go through the details. I mean, the supply chain, when people talk about the supply chain and work in the supply chain, it's not just a topic. You know, it's something like some people go, I want to work as a supply chain. But it's not a supply chain, it's part of the supply chain. It's even in the titles. I mean, the people go and search for a supply chain title. The supply chain title, you either acquire it as a specialist or as a director or a manager.
Yeah.
This is where you will find the definition of supply chain. Else, you are working as a material planner, as a demand planner, production planner, warehouse supervisor, uh, um, inbound logistics. So a lot of jobs are not named in definition as supply chain, but it's part of the supply chain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So each part of these, the part related to the custom clearance, the part related to the transportation, to the efficiency and the KPIs and the tracking of the performance, all these are parts of the supply chain. So when you say that you are willing to understand the supply chain, you need to have a starting point, and you enter the field of the supply chain where you apply the knowledge that you acquire from a training course, and you start to implement it on the floor. It's something like when you go and read a book, and let's say I've read a lot about acquiring knowledge in general. And if
Mhm.
you read the book, you got some knowledge. When you
Sure.
apply what is in the book, you get the most of it. When you try to teach it to others, you are excelling. So if people are willing to acquire supply chain knowledge, they have to start with readings, videos, training courses could be, and then they have to start to apply what they have read or acquired knowledge, and see how they can change. This is a major factor in the supply chain. I mean, when we talk about people willing to apply supply chain knowledge, and this is the topic, and this is really important, they have to understand that there is an area of influence and area of concern. Something like you are in an organization, you have 3 to 4 years experience, you are working as a material planner, and then you go and take a course in the supply chain, and you got to know that your organization is not at the high level of the supply chain maturity, and you are willing to do the change. So you start to question the organization, question your manager. This is not the right thing to do, and this is the right that I've learned in the training course and so on. The first thing that you will find is objection. People
Yeah.
will just think, okay, so you went for a course and you are coming to change the organization. So this is where people got stuck. So this is why it's important to understand that once you have the knowledge, you start to apply what is within your area of influence, what you can really change. And by time that you will exert effort in doing this and finding the results improving, people will come to see how you're doing this. How are you, if you are a material planner, and I'm biased to the material planner somehow. So if you are a material planner and you did a good job in inventory reduction, where you
Yes.
plan your orders the right way, and then you start to get better financial positions because you are reducing the cash outflow, you are reducing the warehouse utilization, and so on. So people will start to see how this is going on. What have you learned differently than that have been before that is getting these best results? And then you will start to give them the key, just to tell them that we need to change something in this area, or we can improve in this area, and so on. And by time that you get to a supervisory level or a managerial level, your area of influence will start to grow up. And I was really happy that one of my students, I would say, was in a class. I'm teaching supply chain, by the way, as you have mentioned. I didn't mention this, but I've been teaching supply chain not as a career, but it's more of sharing knowledge with others. And this is something I do adore. And he called me a few weeks ago telling me that he did this. He was in the area of influence of a planner, and then by years, he started to be almost the factory planning manager. And he's now applying more of the knowledge that we had. And I was really happy because he focused on what he can do, and he did a real change. And by the time he got more influence, he started to change more. So the most important point is apply the knowledge in the area that you can improve
Yes.
till you have a wider area, rather than going to challenges within the business owner, or your manager or your colleagues even.
Okay. Very nice answer. Amazing, Dr. Amani. Let's go again to our lovely friends. We have Ahmed Khalid. He has a question. Based on your experience, Dr. Amani, how can supply chain could be an adding value to the organization? It's a
Well,
huge question.
this is a very crucial question, by the way,
Yes.
and thanks Ahmed for reading this point because, well, I've read this in the books, but whatever is in the books, if it's not matching reality, it's just words in the books.
Yes.
Supply chain have been always treated in the past as a cost center, and this is what people meant to be. It's something like when I went for an interview, the business owner spent something like 5 hours on two sessions asking me about how it'll be value adding to the organization. So
Mhm.
the supply chain is helping you to realize where you can change the process, where can you have it better, where can you eliminate part of the non-value adding activities. Supply chain is linked to lean in a way or another. Something
Yes.
like the simplest form of applying supply chain and value adding is inventory management, and this is a huge bulk of the cash that is tied in the inventory if it's not managed the right way.
Yeah.
All organizations, even those that are advanced, are still uh, facing issues about the cash flow due to the high inventory, either in the raw and back materials or the finished goods, because the demand fluctuation is always huge. And touching this point, and Ahmed is an expert in the SNOP, if the
Mm.
SNOP was not done the right way and the demand is not tracked from the beginning, from being a forecast up to the actual demand across the way long, you will always have a lot of cash tied in the inventory, raw and packed materials, and finished goods. And the disaster is when these items are having an expiry date, something like the food industries, where you are always having a risk of expiry. If the items are imported, you are spending half the shelf life across the way when it's coming in the sea. So, yes, supply chain is value adding in inventory management, in cash management, in connecting with other organizations, in making decisions. And this is one of the crucial things in the supply chain. Supply chain is about decision making. The more that you have wider visibility on the information, and the information is another key that needs to be always accurate and on time. So supply chainers are decision maker. Whenever you take the right decision, you get the right results. So if the supply chain is not taking these decisions, then your organization will suffer. You will have some items that is having a surplus, others that are out of stock, lines that are stopping every now and then due to shortage in material, or due to change in the plan, or due to a sudden request in the demand, or a change. I mean, sometimes, and as said, in the SNOP, we try to have something like a agreement between the supply and the demand, because everything is up and in the air. Everything is changing every now and then. So you
Yes.
cannot keep all the organization each minute changing. So if you will say is the supply chain value adding, is value adding across the organization, and it's value adding in the part related to the customer service. It's value adding in the part related to supplier relationship. You keep your relation with your supplier, you get items with a better cost, and you have more visibility on the market, more visibility on the technology. And I've seen a lot of examples in the real life about how our relation with our supplier can improve the full supply chain in our organization, and how our relation with our customer can do so. So the supply chain is really value adding across.
Yes. Amazing
and
point,
and
Manny.
and we can have something like more and more, something like the utilization of the warehouses, the optimization of the transportation distribution systems. All this is value adding definitely for the organization.
Sure,
I
sure.
hope this answers Ahmed's question.
I think you covered everything. But if I can add the small point, it will not be an addition. It's in the same way you answered the question. I believe that inventory management has 50%, at least 50% of the improvement that we can do through supply chain. I believe this is the start of supply chain. If we have a wrong description for the material you have in the inventory, so you are going to duplicate the procurement, logistics, and even planning, and the demand will be fluctuated very strong. The fluctuation will be very strong in that time. So I believe the start in inventory management. If you have a clear and strong performance in inventory management, I believe every other steps in the supply chain will be going smoothly, and the performance will be increased by the time.
Well, it's to the point, and I would tell you that it's not only that it's that important, but it's easy to recognize. It's something like a lot of the areas that we can improve in the supply chain uh, is not that easy to measure. You
Yes.
can have a lot of improvements that is not easy to measure. However, the inventory management is one of the easiest things that can be measured, and that's why it's always triggered. And I had a couple of records in two organizations in inventory management. Well, I don't like to talk about myself. Actually, I've reduced the stocks in one of the multinational organizations 50% in 6 months, and we
Yes.
have sustained like this without having out of stocks in the finished goods on the raw pack material. So it's really amazing when you do it, and it's really recognized.
As you mentioned, it's very easy to catch the mistakes in the
Yes,
inventory management.
yes, yes.
By the way, I have done something like that in 2012 in one of the multinational companies I worked before, and I gained a lot of reduction. I believe I made in 1 year 12 million reduction Egyptian pounds
And
in the
sustained
inventory management.
directly after.
Yeah, and nothing in the operation has been impacted by this reduction. By the way, I
Yes,
catch a
this is
lot of
this is
items obsolete, slow, non-moving items, and we
bulk
start.
purchasing.
Yes, 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 and the I can say the main reason of that issue, the duplication of the materials because of the very weak description of the material.
This is a crucial part that require having a very solid ERP system, where
Yes,
every information entered to the system is very, let's say, specific and accurate before we go for it. And it require also a warehouse team that is capable and understanding of
yes,
the importance of the information,
yeah,
and even understanding how critical it's something like, even if it's not about the description, it's sometimes about wrong entry, something like you,
yes,
you
yes,
do you do a receiving or an issue in the warehouse, and you didn't record it on the right code, and then the planning team starts to work, they purchase items that we do not need, and they miss the items that is required. And this is the fun part, where you have to find solutions about the challenges that you have every day.
yes. Sorry, one more thing. One of the hidden killer in the inventory management is unit of measurement.
Well, if I'll say, you are touching a lot of the, let's say, it's not only one or two. You have a lot of information that, if just a number or a figure has not been managed the right way, and this is touching back to the accuracy and the timely information, yes, it's a disaster, it's a nightmare.
Yes,
And
yes,
mainly the people working in the material planning will really understand this, because
yes,
they are the ones who are having a lot of variance in the percentage of scrap, in the usage on the production line, the unit of measure, as you have just mentioned, the plus or minus in the supplier delivery, the quality of the products delivered, and so on. So this is the big area that we can talk about in a different
I believe we need to
episode.
have another episode
For the
related to this
material
topic.
planning
Yeah,
specifically,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
maybe later on,
Okay,
inshallah.
inshallah. Let's go again to our lovely friends. We have Ahmed Musa, great definition, Amani.
Thank you.
Ahmed Musa, is it true supply chain is somehow underestimated as most of local companies?
Yes,
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 Ahmed Khalid,
it's a
wonderful
fact.
answer.
Well, I'll go back to Ahmed's
Okay, sorry.
question. Well, I have to tell, yes, yes, in the local organizations, I will not say all, but a lot of it, they do not understand what the supply chain is about. And that this is what I've mentioned at the beginning. It's something like, I went for an interview in an organization that having uh, an annual revenue of 1.6 billion pounds, dollars. It's 1.6 billion, yes, but per year. And they don't have a supply chain either. And he was just trying to understand what is the value add of the supply chain and how this will change the organization. We have been operating for years and years. So what will be the new thing that the supply chain will add? So yes, we are, let's say, in need to increase the awareness of the importance of the supply chain. And this is why I'm trying to participate in the social activities, in the student activities, in the events and forums that is talking about the supply chain and of its importance, because if the community that we live in do not understand how is it important, they will continue to act in the same way they have been doing before. And if we will talk about sustainability, we'll find that a lot of all these organizations are having a disaster, and this disaster will continue to be in the economy that we have if we didn't catch up and start to reduce these resources that are not utilized the right way across the supply chain improvements. I hope this is supportive.
Yes, we can check again our friends. Ahmed Khalid, wonderful answer, Dr. Amani.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed Khalid. Ahmed Khalid, exactly. SNOP is a key to translate the supply chain strategy based on business strategy. Totally agree with you, Ahmed Khalid. I totally agree with Dr. Amany Zedan.
There is a point that I need to flag with Ahmed about the SNOP.
SNOP. He's a
Yes,
master of SOP.
yes, I know, and I need to clarify that SNOP and demand planning was not taking their right position in the organizations in the past. However, we started with the, let's say, I'm just talking about my history. So we started with the demand planning, and when we talk about demand planning, it should not be biased toward sales, and it needs someone who is senior. It's something like, don't get a fresh grad and make him a demand planner. I apologize if this is contradicting with others people mentality, but the demand planner has to have a good position and a level of seniority that he can challenge the sales number and he can push back when needed. So the demand planning is crucial, and it's the core of the SNOP. I mean, if you don't have a demand plan or a forecast, you will not be able to cover the SNOP across. So the starting point of the SNOP is the demand planning. So both are very interrelated and both are very important because they are the driver of the organization. Thank you.
That's amazing, Amani. So let's go to maybe the last question. I think the time is flying. We need to know, how can you apply what you learned from supply chain knowledge in your organization?
Okay, I guess I've covered part of this when we were
Yes.
talking about the area of influence and the area of concern. So what I would say is start with what you can influence. Start
In your
with
area.
what is realistic, and start with having a business case. It's something like, if you are willing to do a change, you need to have a solid case, and this solid case has to start with the pain in the organization. Let's say if you are part of the customer service team, and sometimes the customer service is within the scope of the supply chain, so it's a b2b industry, and you are the customer service, so you have learned in the books that you have to improve your relation with your customers, and you have to have always uh, a good connection and good communication. So if you have studied in the customer relationship management within the supply chain that there should be a level of visibility between you and your customer. Let's say you have to inform him whenever there is a delay in the order, or you have to inform him if there is something related to the documents that needs to be fixed. It's something like, keep your customer informed, keep the channel open, and this is part of what you can do as just a customer service specialist. So I'm just trying to simplify. Do what you can in your area, and then go and check your results. Whenever you do an improvement, this is crucial. Something like, I've did this change, how the impact was. Name it in the material planning, name it in the customer service, name it in the inventory management. I mean, when we talk about the point that we have covered about the inventory management, and we said that it's easy. Why it's easy? Because there is a finance team at your back who's measuring the cash flow. How much have been in the inventory turnover, and the inventory tied in cash? How much was there in the warehouse when Shady joined the organization? And how much of the cash is tied in the inventory now? And then I can easily say, then Shady has did a good job.
Thank you.
And and this is where you start to influence, and this is where you start to improve. And if we will talk about the applying in the other areas, it could be starting with encouraging your colleagues to learn more. You are in a certain area in the supply chain and you have learned it and you are applying, but you still see your colleagues in different areas in the supply chain that are not on the right track. Don't go and push them something like, you are doing something wrong, I'll tell you what's right. But
Mm.
you can clarify that you have known
I
somewhere
was
that
going to ask you this question.
Yes, don't push people. They will not accept. Don't push people. But you can try to show them the benefits. Try to tell them that what you have learned and you have applied within your area of responsibility has been improving. So if you can try to go and get the knowledge, you will find a lot of areas of improvement in your area. So people will start to think, if he was able to do this and get the benefits and start to be promoted sometimes, or to get another job in another organization, not exactly in the same organization, then we can do the same. We can improve ourselves, we can improve our performance, and we have to care and have certain level of ownership. And this is crucial in the supply chain. I mean, if we have another time to discuss the skills that is required for the people working in the supply chain, one of them has to be having ownership and having commitment, because this is
Okay.
this is this is this is part of it.
Okay, Amani, if we applied what you just said now, I read books, I attend courses, I applied what I learned in my area, and I had already improved it. The first challenge I will face, I believe, the resistance from other colleagues. In case I succeed to pass this challenge, what other challenges that I may face?
Well, you will face other challenges, not in the applying of the knowledge related to the challenge of the people, but it will be related to the industry itself and the relations with the suppliers and the customers. Because as Ahmed Musa has mentioned, in our local organizations, you may face the challenge from the other departments, not from your own department and not from your manager. You will
Yes,
face it's the resistance to change. It's something like when you ask for an information that you didn't use to ask about it before. So people start to ask, why are you asking these questions? What do you need this information for? And you start to get something like being unsecured from the other departments. He's getting involved in what we are doing. He's trying to get the knowledge of our areas. It's not so. In such case, this challenge, which is not within your own department, has to be diluted by giving the people a benefit. It's something like, I need this information because if I know it, I'll support you in doing one, two, three. It will be helpful that I provide the products that you need. I mean, sometimes I have this challenge with the sales team. When I ask for more information, they start to question, why do I need it? So I start to think, well, if you will give me this information, I'll be ready with the products that you need earlier than needed. I will be able to plan it in a better situation. I will be able to reduce the out of stocks that you are facing. So just give the people something like, if I'm getting this information, you are getting a benefit. So they will start to cooperate. And by time, it's something like you do it once and you do it twice, and then they will start to be smoother giving you the information, as long as they having the benefit that you have promised. And keep
yeah,
your promises.
yes, yes. I believe this challenge should be covered by the top management. They should believe in supply chain, and they should give the support to the team or the key users who will apply this new knowledge, if we can say that.
You are touching the pain, Shady. Well, a lot of organizations thought that if they get a supply chain manager who is experienced enough and knowledgeable enough, this will change the organization. Actually, this is not. The supply chain cannot operate as a silo or a single person or a single department that can improve the organization,
Yes,
unless we are all on the same level of understanding and the same level of maturity of understanding how we'll cooperate together. Do not expect much from the supply chain department if the other departments are not on the same wave.
yes,
Yes, and this is crucial. So
yeah,
you cannot say this supply chain manager has did a good job or not, unless
yeah,
that the other departments that are cooperating are on the same strengths and maturity level and understanding of the supply chain itself.
yes.
You know
I,
what I mean?
yeah, I know very much what you
And
mean.
this is what I've
And
mentioned at the beginning when I said that the supply chain is not only important for the supply chain people, it's
no,
important for
the
all
whole
to
business.
have, yes, to have the business growing
Yes,
up and mature and working all together in harmony across the network that the supply chain is owning.
yes, yes. I love what you said. We are not working in a separate silo. We have
No,
to
no, we can never
completely,
do it. We can never.
yes,
Yes,
never.
we are always
Production and
connected to our, yes,
yes, and the transparency between departments and the flow information should be in a very healthy technique. Otherwise,
definitely.
nothing will happen. Maybe it will be the disaster by applying supply chain working alone.
Well, actually, I will tell you, the results will not happen. You will always be on the treadmill, just doing a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
effort,
yeah.
but you are having zero results. Or and sometimes, as you said, it could be negative.
You are touching the pain. Yes, sometimes I feel that. I can say it, grinding in the water.
Yes, somehow, yes, yes, it
Yes,
is.
yeah. I'm so happy, Amani, for the massive information you delivered today to me and for the all the friends we have
Thank you
today.
very much.
I know you have some difficulties in your personal, and I know I took you from what you have to attend this show.
I'm
So
enjoying being with you, definitely, Shady, and it's
thank you.
always a pleasure to cooperate with my colleagues.
Pleasure is mine, and I believe we have to take another time from you with another episode.
Inshallah, hopefully.
Maybe we can make it for inventory. I think you have a good experience in this area because you play as a planner for a long time. So even me, I work in inventory management for a long time, so we can do something good,
For sure,
I believe.
for sure.
Thank you, Amani, and I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of today, and stay tuned for the coming episode, inshallah, coming Tuesday.
Inshallah. Thank you, Shadi. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Khalid. And thanks for all the nice audience that have been today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Bye bye.
Bye. Talk soon.